Good morning. Welcome everyone to our May Lunch and Learn. I'm Carol Back, and I manage the statewide program with the Office of State Human Resources. We are fortunate today to also have Diane Griffiths, Kara Rouse, and Kimberly Winters with us from the NC Flex team to us answer some questions from the chat. So during today's presentation, feel free to use the chat and put any questions you have in there, and we will be getting back to you with the answers during the presentation, but then also at the end, we will work with Katie and ask her any of the questions that we haven't been able to get to. So we'll be able to do that right during the cooking demonstration. We'll also save a few minutes at the end that we can ask Katie additional questions. So at this point, a lot of you have been joining us regularly now for these monthly Lunch and Learns. Last month, we learned about numerous benefits of adopting more plant-based foods into our diets. Today, we're going to look into the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet has been voted the best or the healthiest diet for years in a row. Get ready to learn some realistic ways of integrating parts of this diet into your daily lives. As a reminder, anyone registered for this event will receive a recording of today's presentation, as well as the recipe, and a link to our webpage where we house all past demos and as well as invitations to the upcoming webinars. So we are excited to welcome again Katie Godin from Lifestyle Medical Center. Katie's been a registered dietitian for 15 years, and she focuses on helping individuals meet their health goals and improve the knowledge and relationship with food. Lifestyle Medical Center is an in-network nutrition counseling service. So for all of you enrolled in the state health plan, virtual and in-person visits are covered at 100% by in-network providers. And you can find a nutritionalist, as you can see on our cover slide, by going to the state health plan and learning and putting in your zip code, and you'll be able to find a nutritionalist close to you. As well, we will look forward to Katie's presentation. And at this point, let's welcome Katie now and learn about the wonderful health benefits associated with the Mediterranean diet. Katie?
Thank you, Carol. As always, thank you for such a nice intro. Happy to be here with you guys for the May Lunch and Learn today, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about the Mediterranean diet, which is possibly one of my favorite diets to kind of research, talk about. Obviously, the food is absolutely delicious, so that's always a perk. And I loved this quote that I put here on the front page that Thomas Edison said: "The doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather will cure and prevent disease with nutrition." And I feel like that's what the Mediterranean diet embodies, is using food as medicine. And sometimes, we kind of forget the power of food. And so I think that's one of the driving forces of me as a dietitian to talk more about this particular diet. So so let's get started. So guys, I just kind of threw a little bit of information. Carol mentioned some about the services and the benefits that you get with your health plan. But as far as services of lifestyle, there's lots of different things that we offer. And so I always think it's good to just kind of throw out there that we're not just, someone to go to if you want to manage weight. That is part of it, but there's lots of different things that we can work on with an individual. Women's health, sleep assessment, stress management, chronic disease counseling if you're wanting to work on sports nutrition. So there's lots of different avenues. So just wanted you guys to know that some of the services that we offer at Lifestyle. Okay, thank you. So as Carol mentioned, the Mediterranean diet has been voted best diet for 5 years in a row. It's usually a contender, if not the winning contender. So other contenders that are up for best diet of the year are the DASH diet, which is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So someone who's trying to lower their blood pressure. And then the flexitarian diet, which I actually spoke on last month. So when someone goes into judging these diets and kind of determining what's going to be voted the best diet of the year, there's a panel of experts. So not only dietitians or nutrition experts, those that are experts in diabetes, heart health, also human behavior, which I think is really interesting to just understand the complexity of the diet, how easy is it to follow. That's really important. And then weight loss is also incorporated into that decision as well. So some of the dietary components evaluated for this particular year, as years before, are, as I mentioned, ease of compliance, the short-term and long-term effect on weight loss, and specifically its effectiveness against cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Okay. So I just kind of put a little slide here just to kind of visualize Western diet, which is your typical US diet, versus a Mediterranean diet. And so I think, as always with my presentations, I'm not trying to, the goal of this presentation today is to not tell you that you have to go and now live the Mediterranean way fully. I think it's, again, adopting some of these concepts into your lifestyle. So how can we kind of swap out one of those Western diet pictures and add in one of those Mediterranean diet pictures? Is it eating less fast food? Is it maybe not as much processed food? Is it getting more activity? Is it sitting together as a family around the dinner table? Those are all things that the Mediterranean diet embodies, and the culture is really about. It's not just the food, it's other things. It's the community of people that you are connecting with while you eat. It's the activity and the mindset behind that lifestyle in general. So I just kind of wanted to show you just the differences there. Thank you. So why Mediterranean? So lots of research on the Mediterranean diet, and basically what it is all kind of coming down to is that it's reducing some forms of cancer. There's high antioxidant consumption within a Mediterranean diet. I'll get into the specifics here in a minute. It's very effective in weight management. There's lots of fiber and fruits and vegetables. It's low in saturated fat. It promotes physical activity. So as you can see, all of those things, of course, are going to maybe lead us in a direction where we're managing a healthier body weight. One of the really big things is the prevention and the help with the control over type 2 diabetes. So a lot of times if someone is coming to lifestyle for counseling and they've maybe just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, we might talk through some Mediterranean diet concepts. And again, we'll get into a little bit more specifics of what that means here in just a second. One of the most astounding research numbers here, I think, is the 40% reduction in the development of Alzheimer's and the protection from cognitive decline. There's actually a diet that I'm not going to speak too much on today. It's very similar to the Mediterranean. It's called the MIND diet, and it's a combination of Mediterranean and the DASH diet. And so that has specifically been researched to show how just less meat consumption, increase in leafy greens, specifically those two components, are just overwhelming research showing how it can reduce the development of Alzheimer's and help with that cognitive decline. A decreased risk of macular degeneration has been studied as well. The management of blood pressure, again, lots of fruits and vegetables, high potassium, very low sodium, all of these things really just push you towards those healthier blood pressure numbers. And then the reduction of cardiovascular disease by up to 30 to 60%. And as you see here in a minute, the Oil, healthy fats, and overwhelming amount of healthy oil consumption, omega-3 fatty acids from fish. These are all contributing factors to this reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. I wanted to just show you guys the Mediterranean food pyramid. So there's a different food pyramid for this particular diet. On the food pyramid, there's actually the daily physical activity and eating with family component, which I think is so wonderful. If we could all just, you know, think of these types of behaviors, like I said, just we're never eating with our family. We're always rushing around, me included. I'm not perfect. We've got young kids. We've got activities. You lose sight of that sometimes. And I think just kind of bringing it back to less screens, sitting down and eating without distractions, enjoying your food, eating it more mindfully. Those are all big parts of the Mediterranean diet culture. But there's lots of servings of whole grains. That's probably the bulk of it, which it also includes a chunk of beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, fruits and vegetables, olive oil specifically, lots of fish, few servings a week versus the 1 to 2 that we recommend usually, and where we're really not getting in a serving of fish every week. Very moderate portions of dairy, eggs, cheese, low fat if so, and then the sweets consumption and red meat consumption is low, and so they have ways of incorporating some of these sweeter treats, but in a healthier way, which we'll talk about. Okay. So let's kind of elaborate a little bit. I know that pyramid gave you a general idea, but let's elaborate on the specifics. So fruits and vegetables, 6 servings a day. A serving is half a cup. So maybe what we try to do is, if we're noticing that we're only getting maybe 2 to 3 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, we work on that. We say, okay, let's try to add another half a cup of a fruit or a vegetable during your day. Maybe we try to have a serving at every single meal if we're not already. These are ways that we can slowly adapt the Mediterranean diet concepts. It doesn't have to be adapting all of these things at one time. One thing that I think is a nice goal, if you're not already doing so, is trying to have some beans each week. Black beans, half a cup, sprinkle them over the top of a salad, add them to a wrap, have a black bean burger instead of a regular burger. These are ways that you can kind of incorporate legumes, lentils. Those are always nice as well. Wonderful high protein and fiber, and just wonderful for heart health. As I mentioned, whole grains are very prominent in the Mediterranean diet, 3 to 6 servings per day. Yes, whole grain pasta, whole grain bread. Bread and pasta are not off the table here. I think it's just how we're eating them. Mediterranean diet culture usually adds a lot of vegetables into their meals. So within that pasta picture, you see spinach leaves. Adding whatever vegetable you can to your pasta dish, I think, would be a good goal. That way we're able to kind of continue with that base of the meal that maybe you desire, which is pasta, but we're incorporating some of those healthy, fibrous, antioxidant-rich foods from those vegetables as well. Let's see, nuts and seeds, very important. 3 servings per week, if not every day. I think a serving of nuts a day is essential. It's a wonderful snack for anyone who has diabetes. If you were wanting to add in some of those heart-healthy fats, they really slow down the digestion of blood sugar. Pair it with a fruit. Pair it with some type of vegetable or maybe a protein of some other kind. But I think that having a serving of nuts a day is really helpful. Another good thing to do is, instead of maybe some sugary granola on top of a Greek yogurt, you could add a tablespoon of some chopped up walnuts or pistachios or sunflower seeds, or something like pumpkin seeds are another a good option. So that's a way to incorporate some more nuts and seeds into your day. And then olive oil, Very easy. Cook with it, use it to top your salad, something like that, at least a tablespoon per day. The Mediterranean diet actually encourages up to 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil every single day. Okay, Kara. Moving on here to fish and seafood. 3 servings per week. A serving is 3 to 4 ounces. A lot of people come to me and they don't care for fish, and I totally get that. Or maybe they don't know how to cook it. I think I've done a salmon dish earlier in the year, but when it comes to fish, it doesn't have to be salmon. It doesn't have to be a specific thing. Even just a serving of canned tuna in water. Really, they have those omega-3 fats in them. That is fine. Other seafood, it doesn't have to be, it could be shrimp, it could be scallops, it could be, I think what they're trying to do is to just encourage less meat consumption and getting in some of these leaner, high protein, low saturated fat options into your lifestyle. So when it comes to dairy and eggs, lower fat options are encouraged. I have a picture of Greek yogurt on here just because it has more protein. When it comes to yogurt, we can get kind of tripped up with the sugar content. So this is one particular brand called Light and Fit. Other forms of Greek yogurt out there, what I usually have people do is look at the label and make sure that there's more protein than there is sugar. So if you can just think of that when you're going to the grocery store the next time, it's interesting to see how many yogurts out there are more like desserts than they are actual yogurts. So anyway, and again, adding something like fruit, adding some nuts and seeds to it can really help to make that a full meal or really good healthy snack. And then when it comes to eggs, they encourage 1 yolk per day to limit the fat. Egg whites are a wonderful source of protein if you're trying to keep it kind of lean, but you want to bulk up the amount of the meal. I always recommend a yolk with 2 whites, something like that, or a full egg with an extra 2 whites. Obviously, we cater things to people when it comes to this, but that's just or we individualize it. I mean, if you were to come and see one of the dietitians specifically, but just in general, trying to kind of keep it to that 1 yolk per day. So meat and poultry, they encourage white meat 2 to 3 times a week. A serving would be a few ounces. Red meat, 1 serving or 3 ounces per week. That's probably the most difficult thing for a lot of people. We're a very red meat consuming country. So if anything, it's baby steps. Today with the burgers that I'm making, we're going to be using ground turkey. That's a way of kind of switching it up a little bit. And then red wine, optional, but if you desire, they really encourage a glass of wine a day. This is not necessary for heart health, so I'm not telling anyone that they have to drink red wine, but it is part of the culture and it is part of the research showing that around 1 glass for women, 2 glasses for men of red wine, the antioxidants are very heart healthy. And then when it comes to baked goods, desserts, they're very fruit focused when it comes to desserts. And I've got a website that I've put at the end, but I'll say it, but then it'll also be on the end references page as well. But it's called Med Before Meds. And the idea is the Mediterranean diet before medication. And they have a lot of recipes, including black bean brownies, which I'll show here in a second. I'm not making them today, but I will be featuring them in a few months, and they are surprisingly tasty, I promise. But anyway, there's a lot of different recipes on that website for the Mediterranean diet, specifically with some dessert options. And then when baked goods, just using more whole grain flours, healthy oils versus solid fats, flaxseed egg substitutes, stuff like that is what you would find a lot in some of the Mediterranean style baked goods. So I just wanted to show you guys some pictures of what it would look like to, eat a day of Mediterranean, okay? So a veggie omelet. So these little egg muffins you can find, this isn't a specific recipe right here, it's just a picture of them, but they're everywhere. Maybe you've made them before. The recipe website that I love to represent a lot in my demos, Eating Well, as well as the one I'm using today, which is Skinny Taste, has quite a few recipe options for these little veggie omelet muffins, which you really just whip up eggs, vegetables, cheese. You put them in your little muffin tins and bake them for about 25 minutes, and they're done. They can be put in the freezer. They can be left out in the refrigerator for a few days. So they're awesome. And but yeah, just getting in some type of vegetable, some type of protein, that would be something ideal for that morning time frame, or something with fiber like oatmeal with berries, maybe a little bit of walnuts on there to have some of that omega-3 fat consumption as well. So that's what a breakfast would look like. As far as lunch, we can look at that next slide. So we have a Greek salad, which you could top with any type of protein, grilled chicken, you could do shrimp, you could do salmon, you could just have it as is and maybe have a Greek yogurt on the side for a little extra protein if you're maybe not eating meat at that particular meal. So Greek salads are really loaded. I've got one to show you today, are really loaded with, obviously you've got your vegetables, but you have these Kalmata olives, which are delicious. You've got feta cheese, which is pretty big staple of the Greek salad. Sometimes I like to add little bits of avocado, and some banana peppers have been kind of one of my big things lately to add on top of salads if you guys want something fun and fresh to do to jazz it up a little bit. And then another option, just some type of grilled chicken with roasted vegetables and quinoa. So this might be a leftover meal for dinner the night before. Okay, and then as far as dinner goes, some type of fish, maybe salmon, maybe you've got some brown rice for your whole grain and you've got your steamed broccoli. Again, none of these options that I've presented really are challenging. I think it's just thinking through some of this sometimes. And I think that's what's so nice about meeting with a dietitian one-on-one is just to brainstorm, come up with ideas, how to keep it simple for your family. I think that's something that we do really well at Lifestyle. And then when it comes to the pasta sides of things, like I mentioned before, this particular pasta dish uses your whole wheat pasta, but you can also see a lot of color in that dish, a lot of vegetables. You can get as creative as you want with this. You don't really need a recipe. Just throw in whatever vegetable you like. And then maybe you have some type of olive oil based drizzle to it, or maybe there's a marinara sauce to go with it. But yeah, I think the idea is to just keep it as simple as possible while trying to attain some of these concepts as well. Okay, snacks. I mentioned before, nuts are a really good snack. Pairing it maybe with some type of dried fruit, a little bit like raisins, or you could do some berries to keep it a little less concentrated sugar. Anyone that has diabetes, I always kind of steer them away from dried fruit. So I would encourage only just a tablespoon if you do have a little bit of dried fruit with your nuts, or having that fresh fruit to get that fiber content. And then of course, hummus is a nice, wonderful staple, as well as tzatziki, which is what I'm going to be featuring today, with vegetables, is a wonderful dip to have as a snack as well. Okay. And then you've got your desserts. This is your black bean brownies. And this particular recipe is on that website that I mentioned to you guys, that Med Before Meds. And then they do some microwaved baked apples on that website as well. So other options could be just taking some fresh fruit with a little bit of, maybe yogurt. Maybe you do a little bit of some type of Cool Whip or whipped cream if you want. But I think just incorporating more fruit for a dessert is a nice twist to kind of add in that extra serving of fruit for that day. Okay. And then what to limit? It's all about balance. And I think that, when it comes to some of this stuff, like I said, it's just incorporating some of these little habits over time, not feeling like you have to do it all at once. But they obviously limit a lot of sugar, they limit a lot of sweets. And so I think the first thing I have people work on if they're trying to work on sugar consumption is just see where you have a lot of processed sugar in your diet. Is there, just unlimited amounts of bagged cookies or ice cream or all the things that are just incredibly tempting in your house at all times? And maybe we work on just having other options. Maybe it's not always taking everything out. It's just bringing some of the other stuff in and having it readily available for you to try as an alternative. Maybe it's limiting that red meat to once a week. Maybe you just try it. Maybe if you're a red meat consumer 4 times a week, we bring it down to 2. So I think it's just baby steps, but these are some things to consider. Processed meats, processed foods in general. Processed foods could be an entire conversation just because everything out there is processed these days. I think it's just really looking at the ingredients of the product, talking to your dietitian about that specifically. How can we work on having the least processed food in the house, but still being realistic that we need convenience items. With my particular demo today, I'm going to show you ways of kind of adding in a convenience item to this particular burger that I'm making. And it's just realistic for families that we can't always make everything from scratch. But I think that if we can kind of know what are some of our better options out there. Limiting our refined oils. Oils is always something that I get a lot of questions about. And so, as I mentioned, they're very focused on extra virgin olive oil, but there's lots of other oils out there that I've kind of brought up in previous conversations: flaxseed oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil, sesame oil, depending on what types of dishes you're making. Just to throw it out there, extra virgin olive oil is best used when you're not cooking at high heat. So I really wouldn't roast with it. It's really meant to be used cold, just over, or not cold, but you know what I mean, not heated up. Used over salads, used to drizzle, because once heated to a high temp, because it doesn't have a high smoke point, it can start to release some unhealthy compounds. And so choosing some of these higher heat oils like avocado oil, flaxseed oil, even the grapeseed oils, those are good to have on hand too. So and then reducing fast food and definitely sugar sweetened beverages is something that we really try to help people work through that as best that we can to get people off drinking sugar. Okay. All right, guys. Excuse me. So what we are going to make today is some Greek turkey burgers. And I don't know if you guys have made anything like this before, but this is a true, easy, simple, could be done day of, that night, less than 30 minutes from start to finish. It's a fantastic kind of swap for a regular burger, in my opinion. And I'm going to talk you through some modifications to it as well if there's certain things you don't care for about it. But that's what we are going to focus on today. So, and I'll take questions along the way once I kind of get into the presentation. I can answer any questions, and then I'll save some time for at the end as well. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm going to kind of bring it down here to my cooking station, actually, and we'll tell you a little bit about the recipe first. Excuse me. So this recipe uses ground turkey, 93% ground turkey. There's 98% lean out there as well. It's just somewhere around that 93% is fine. I think you're just trying to reduce that amount of saturated fat. And then when it comes to other things, we're going to be mixing in a little bit of garlic, cumin, oregano, and I'll give you the specifics of each thing as I'm doing it. Some Kalmata olives, some feta cheese, and some chopped spinach. And one thing about the Mediterranean diet and about really just promoting being able to eat meat if you desire it, but trying to get in some of these vegetables at the same time. One wonderful thing to do is mix in vegetables into your burgers, no matter what type of burger you're making. You can mix spinach and mushrooms and onions and peppers and really whatever you would like into your meat. And what that would do is it really helps with adding some of that fiber, cutting down some of that meat consumption. And so that's what I'm going to do here. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you right here about 1.5 pounds-ish. I mean, I think it's a little less than 1.5 pounds. I think it's 1.3 pounds of ground turkey. Okay, so I just got that in my mixing bowl here. And we're just going to start dumping some of this stuff in, okay? So I'm going to add in about 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. All right, so I'm going to get this spoon right here. All right, so I'm adding in my garlic. I am going to, sorry guys, I'm just heating up my pan. Forgot to do that. Okay. I've got about 1 teaspoon of cumin here. So love cumin. That's a very prominent spice in the Mediterranean diet. 2 teaspoons of oregano. Then we've got about 1/2 cup of feta cheese. So I'm going to kind of dump that in there. Now, let's say you don't like feta cheese. You don't have to add feta cheese in there. I don't know if you like other cheeses. Sometimes goat cheese is a nice option as well. It isn't necessarily that Mediterranean flavor, but again, you can kind of make this your own, all right? Kalmata olives. Maybe you don't love olives. Maybe you don't love Kalmata olives, but you like black olives. I think it's really, again, make it your own. Maybe you like some, but you don't like a lot of them. So what I would do is just kind of tailor it to your flavor preferences. But I'm going to add in about 1/3 cup of Kalmata olives. And then I'm going to do about 1 cup of chopped up spinach. And this is kind of one of those things that I think most of the time people look at it and the green kind of scares them, but it really is flavorless. It doesn't have a strong flavor, but it adds a lot of nutrients and antioxidants and fiber. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just really going to mix this up. I'm going to try to mix up a lot of it with my spoon first, and then I'll kind of get down dirty here and make my patties. But these should make about 5-ish patties. Okay. So we're really just mixing that in. So as you can see, it really is just a lot of dumping things in. As far as the Kalmata olives go, I went ahead and got some that were pre-packaged. I can, hold on one second and I'll show you guys what those look like. Okay, so this is the brand right here. They just come in like these little individual packs. If you like olives, these are great just because you can kind of take 2 or 3, have for a snack. Yes, they do have a lot of sodium to them, so you do have to be mindful of adding those fruits and those vegetables really helps to combat some of the salt that you add into your diet. So it's all about a balance when it comes to sodium. And we can talk through that individually with people because some individual diets maybe wouldn't even allow for the salt of olives. So that's where we kind of have to start to get individualized. But just to let you know what I'm using today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start to kind of form these patties after I get this mixed in. All right.
Is the Mediterranean diet one that you can use as a way of eating for a lifetime, or is it more something you do in short stages?
No, I would really look at anything like this. I would look at as something you can do for a lifetime. I would, if I'm going to go in here on a personal level and just tell you guys how my 2 cents. I do not like to recommend anything to people that they can't sustain as a way of life. And again, it's not about taking the information today and thinking now I have to eat like the Mediterranean, like they do over in Greece, that I have to eat this Mediterranean culture just to the T. It isn't about that. It's about what fits within your lifestyle, what fits within your needs and desires, your personal goals, your health goals. I think adopting some of this into your lifestyle is very manageable. So yes, I do think that some of this, I am very confident that this can be added in slowly but surely and become a way of life for people. And to where if you still want to eat red meat every week, you can. But what if we're eating more fruits and vegetables to go along with that, right? So that's how we're incorporating some of that culture into our lifestyle.
Baby steps, just like you did with plant-based.
Exactly. It's always about baby steps. Okay, guys, so I'm going to form these patties, which can get kind of yicky. So ground turkey can be a little interesting because it's very sticky. So I have a little bit of flour over here if I need just to kind of, get the stuff off my hands. I'll have to go wash my hands after I make them, but let's get started on forming these. Okay, so I'm just going to I'll probably make, 3 or 4 patties here to show you guys to cook. There's no specific amount that it's telling me to use. I'm just kind of using my eye here to just assume. So and everyone has different preferences with how big they want their burgers, right? So, you can make them big, small for kids. I do think that this is an interesting thing for a child. You might have to, again, baby step them into this. Maybe we don't add everything to theirs. Maybe we just add a little bit of spinach, or maybe try a different vegetable that you know that they like to eat. That's a way that you can kind of incorporate some of this for a child. Okay, so I'm going to make a couple more here.
Katie, while you're doing that, with a large focus on whole grains, can it be adapted for someone who has celiac or Crohn's disease?
Yes, of course, we can alter, because all of the gluten-free grains, almond flours, things of that nature, gluten-free oats, have wonderful fiber and healthy intentions to them as well. It is no, because that's when you have a specific chronic disease or a condition that requires you to eat a certain way, that's the priority. So again, there's no one perfect way of eating, right? So we're always adapting to people's needs. And yeah, so of course that's just the Mediterranean culture, but it's always room for modification where it needs to be.
And there are a lot of nuts in this. Are there certain nuts that we should stay away from? And what about peanut butter as well?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So when you're looking at the heart-healthy fats of nuts, really the best to consider incorporating into your, week, I think would be some of those omega-3 rich, like walnuts, adding in some almonds, some pistachios are really nice because they are kind of the lower calorie nut. Maybe people don't realize that, but pistachios are a really nice option. Peanuts are fine. They're known to be more pro-inflammatory, okay? But I don't throw that out there as okay, we can't ever eat peanuts or peanut butter. It's just, again, it's all about variety. So I just really am someone that is not going to ever tell a person that they can't have something. I think it's just about how can we create that variety and get in a lot of different options so that we're trying new things and we're reaping some of the benefits of all the different types of nuts that are out there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Guys, I'm just going to go wash my hands really fast and then I'm going to throw these burgers on the pan, okay? Hold on. All right. So let's see, I've made about 4 patties here. So, and they're already looking so pretty. I really am a big fan of color and things. So this always makes me happy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of get the pan, or sorry, get this a little closer to the pan so that you can see. I just have a little bit of olive oil in my pan here. I'm going to take the burgers. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the burgers on the pan here for about 4 minutes, okay? So we've got 4 minutes on one side. All right. Okay, so can everyone see that okay? So we got the burgers here about 4 minutes on one side, and then I'm going to flip them for a minute. And then one thing I love about this recipe is you literally just take this pan and plop it into the oven for about 10 minutes, and then you're done. So you don't have to stand over and flip the burger, and kind of stand there and watch. You just do it for a few minutes, and then you plop it in the oven. So, so guys, as that's cooking here for a second, any other questions that I can answer?
Yes. Is there, other than salmon and tuna, are there other fish that have similar benefits?
Yes, herring, mackerel are known to be really good. Really, when it comes to fish in general, though, I really think that the general idea is that it has such a nice rich protein profile, low fat profile. Most fish that have a lot of fat to them are a healthy version of fat. You're not going to see a lot of saturated fat in fish, right? So I think that the push for fish is for those reasons too. So there's ways of getting omega-3 fats that you would get from those fish that I mentioned, the herring, the mackerel, the tuna, the salmon. If you are not really pro those fish, there's ways of getting those omega-3 fats from other things. So nuts and seeds like the walnuts, the flaxseed oils, hemp seeds, there's other avenues that you can go down to get those. Because there's just people out there that really don't care for fish, and that just is what it is. There's no sense in feeling like you're doomed if you don't like a certain thing. There's other ways of getting those nutrients into your lifestyle.
All right, great. And then we talked about red wine. What about white wine?
White wine is not going to have those rich antioxidants like the red. That's just the nature of it, right? I think when you, and it makes sense, when you look at rich, colorful hues of berries and foods in general, usually those brighter, richer, beautiful colors have a little bit more nutrients to them. And that's kind of the same when you're comparing white versus red wine. But there's no reason why someone can't incorporate, within reason in the dietary guideline recommendations of wine consumption, having a glass of white wine. It's just not going to give you those antioxidants that the red would. But we can get antioxidants through food, which is where I would push people to get it anyway. But it's just an extra perk if you like red wine. So.
Okay, good. And do you have a specific brand of whole wheat pasta that you recommend?
So no, I don't really, I'm not going to get super picky about brands, because what that ends up doing is it really provides a lot of limitations for people. I think even your grocery store brands of things, I mean, if you look at the ingredients label, they're across the board very similar. The only thing that I would just start to look at is if you are gluten-free and you want a nice gluten-free option. I really like Banza, the chickpea pasta. There's a lot of lentil black bean pastas out there that you can try. So there's lots of different avenues that you can go down as far as that goes. But no, I don't like to get super picky about brands with people.
Okay, good. And is this diet recommended for those with thyroid dysfunction?
Thyroid dysfunction? Yeah, there's no reason why you can't incorporate. I mean, when it comes to really any chronic disease or condition, I don't see where the Mediterranean diet would be at fault. It would be mostly when looking at carbohydrates, I would want to just assess blood sugar levels with people. That's where we would say, okay, is, there's lots of whole grain consumption, like we talked about. Really, it usually means there's carbohydrates involved. So what I would say is that we need to just make sure we're balancing that amount out throughout the day a little bit more specifically. So that's maybe something that we would look at on an individual level. But no, there's no reason that you can't have this particular style of cuisine with really almost any chronic issue that someone might have going on. I'm going to show you guys this really fast. They're starting to look really pretty. So we've got a minute here, and then I'm going to pop it in the oven for about 9-ish minutes, and then we should be right at time. So I'll have another, 9-ish so minutes here in just a second, so I can continue to answer questions. I can show you guys some different brands. I can talk through things, but does anyone have any more questions that we could talk through?
Let's see. Is there a way to make oatmeal taste better?
Yes. I love that question. Okay. And on Skinny Taste, there's actually a fantastic recipe. What I'm going to do is, I guess I could try to pull this up and share my screen, couldn't I? Or my screen is already shared. Could I try to pull that up right now and show everyone? Let's see.
If you see a share option, you would be able to. I'm not sure if you see the share button there. Where you can share your screen. Okay.
Yes, I'm going to show everyone this really fast. How do I get to? Oops. Let me get a Skinny Taste. Blueberry. Okay, let me go to, oops. Okay, can you see?
No. What did you say it was on Skinny Taste?
Okay, sorry, Kira. Okay, I hope I didn't mess up anything on my end. You can still see me?
I can.
Okay, perfect.
What is the recipe called?
It's called baked oatmeal with blueberries, and I just go to Skinny Taste and look that up. But yes, I'll answer that question while you're doing that, Kira. Yes, it's a fantastic recipe for baked oatmeal. That's the route that I usually go with people, because a lot of times people enjoy baked. Yes, there it is. It is so good, you guys, and it makes the house smell amazing. My kids love it. We were just talking about bananas and oatmeal, actually, and I promise you, my kids loved this. It has just a little bit of honey. It's got, of course, those wonderful blueberries, which would be great in season right now, and then the bananas, of course, but it's just got such a nice texture. It's wonderful meal prep. So what you can do is make it ahead of time, and you don't have to worry about making, oatmeal every morning. So this is fantastic. So if you're there, thank you. That cinnamon is just wonderful in it. A little bit of honey, the nuts, the walnuts. So this is actually a great recipe to feature for what we're talking about today. So I'm glad that someone brought that question up. So the only thing that I would tell someone to consider is, if you do have, again, diabetes, we have to be mindful of that, is to make sure that you're being moderate with your portion size. So we could discuss that with someone. We could tell you exactly how much to have, and then having some type of protein to go with it. I've actually had someone mix in protein powder to this recipe before, and it actually came out very well. So that's another option too. But yeah, that's what I would try. If you're not a big oatmeal person, I would try to bake it. So featuring that Skinny Taste recipe. Okay. So guys, maybe what I'll do real quick is show you guys some things that I'm also going to be using when I'm finishing up this presentation when it comes out here in just a second. Tzatziki. I don't know if you guys are familiar with tzatziki. You can make it yourself, but this is a convenience item, guys. When you're thinking of, okay, I want to come home and make a nice meal for my family, this is something that I wouldn't choose to make. I would probably want to do something convenient like this. So I've got a tzatziki yogurt dip here. If you've not had it before, it's got the Greek yogurt. It's got some dill in there. It's cucumber based. So it really goes well with fresh cucumbers if you like to use it maybe as a dip versus using hummus. And then what else should I mention? I'm also featuring having some sweet potato fries to go along with it. So I'm going to show you guys the brand of that. But does anyone have any questions before I do that?
Does this burger recipe work for vegan meat as well?
Sure. I mean, you can definitely use any meat alternative. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't. As far as, yes, like some of your plant-based meat substitutes, I would think that any of this would be fine. You're really just swapping out that meat and using that instead. So of course, that would be not an issue.
Okay, and we had one person ask, is there any substitute for fish?
No, I mean, it's really just not eating that. I don't know of a substitute for fish. I would say it's just, okay, so I guess if you like shrimp or scallops or something like that instead, that would be okay. Kind of getting back to that whole, it's all right if you don't like certain things. There's ways of creating that healthy environment in a different way. And so that's where your dietitian can get creative with you, and so I think adding in other forms of seafood is certainly fine. Maybe it's like the canned tuna like we talked about, or but yes, I think it's just about realizing that there's flexibility, and even just a lean white meat, like a grilled chicken breast instead is going to be fine. I think it's just making sure we have all those vegetables to kind of go with it.
Okay. And are plant-based meat replacements okay, like Impossible Meat or Beyond Meat? Are you familiar with those?
Yes, and so I don't use those very often, so I don't have as much experience with them, I'm going to be honest. Oh, thank you, Kira, for pulling up that Med Instead of Meds website. But I do think that if you are, wanting to get the feel for a burger and you want to have that as your option, I mean, that's why they're there. I think what we all try to be mindful of when we're educating people is the processed forms of the burgers and the substitutes, which are your frozen options that are very processed soy. So I would really try to limit and try to kind of, again, create that variety, create that flexibility where you're just not eating that on a daily basis. I've had a lot of individuals kind of lean on those for their protein sources because they have a lot of protein because they've been supplemented and they have that plant-based protein to them, but in the ways in which they're added, it can kind of get heavy on the process side of things. So but yes, I think that those are fine.
Okay. And is there any sort of tracker to enter food and it would sort it with the Mediterranean diet? Like if you don't know where the servings fit in that you eat?
I'm not aware of a specific Mediterranean diet focused tracker. I think that's where the dietitian could help you kind of one-on-one, for sure. Anything like MyFitnessPal or those types of tracker options are going to have most foods in them these days. And so I really think it's just kind of checking in with your personal dietitian, checking in to see, okay, I can't find this food. What would be the equivalent to the portion, because they don't have that type of thing. So that might be more of an individualized focused conversation. Yeah.
And with nuts, do you recommend using those raw or cooking nuts? Which is better?
I mean, really, any way you want to eat them. I guess when I think about cooking, the only thing I think about is baking with them, right? That would probably be, which is fantastic. I think like with the oatmeal, I think it's great to either sprinkle them on top or bake them. I think it's a preference of what you like as far as taste, as far as nutrient consumption and value to the food versus cooked or raw versus baked. I really don't know the difference between that. I think it's just about eating them. Sometimes it's easier, right, to grab a quarter cup of almonds and kind of grab them, take them on the go. So I think getting individual packs or getting big bags of almonds and going ahead and scooping out not just almonds, walnuts, seeds, those types of things in individual portions so that you can grab and go and take them are an easy option. But of course, baking them in with your with like the black bean brownies have walnuts in them, the baked oatmeal have walnuts in them. So that's also a fine option too.
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm going to pull these burgers out. They're done. So hold on real quick. I will say, just be careful when you are cooking with a pan like this and you've taken it out of the oven, because that is a rude awakening when you grab that handle, and I have 100% done that. So I love these little oven mitts. I don't know if anyone uses those. So what I like to do is I put my little oven mitt over the handle here, so it just reminds me, okay, that's hot, so don't touch it. All right, so guys, I've got my plate already ready over here. I'm just gonna plop one of the burgers and show you a complete meal. Let's take this little guy. He looks really yummy. All right, so let me kind of angle this down and show you what it looks like and what we've got here. All right, guys, can we see that okay? Okay, so what we've got here is, hold on, I don't think you can see it, sorry. My angle is a little off. Okay, can y'all see that a little bit better? Okay, so we've got your burger here, right? Looks so pretty. We've got just a little bit of red onion, cucumbers, tomato, a lettuce, piece of lettuce. I just think it's pretty. I made the most simple salad, you guys. So this has just got a little bit of everything that was on top of the burger and in the burger. So I already had those things out. So I just kind of formed a little salad, which a nice Mediterranean twist to salad dressing that's so easy. It's just a drizzle of olive oil and a squeeze of a lemon wedge, and it is so refreshing and very good. And then you guys, I have which I'll show you the brand here in just a second, some sweet potato fries, because, right, we need something that seems fun and very simple. So that's the complete meal on a whole grain bun. The only thing I'm going to do to kind of seal the deal here is take a little bit of my tzatziki sauce and plop it on top. All right, guys. So it really is a burst of flavors in this burger. It is fantastic. I really, really recommend that you guys try this recipe just because it really is just a simple, yummy twist on burger night. So I hope you guys enjoy.
It is beautiful on the
Isn't
plate.
it pretty? I know, it's so
Especially
pretty.
with the sweet potato fries and the little salad.
That adds a nice color too.
Nice presentation. Let's see, we have a few more questions.
Yes,
What
please.
frozen fish from China, India, Vietnam, etc.
Sorry,
This
what was that?
had a heart doctor tell them to try to avoid, if possible, due to mercury content.
Oh, right. Yes, that's a great question. So when you have a diet that is prominently fish-based, you do have to be aware of that. And so there's great websites out there, guys, that you can just research some of this too when you have a little time on your own. But as far as it goes, some of your larger fish, so your swordfish, your tuna even, your tuna steaks, like your really big fish that are going to be eating a lot of the smaller fish, right? So they are going to have the higher mercury content. I can't spit off the exact recommendations for every fish and their ounces that you should be having, other than eating salmon 1 to 2 times a week is perfectly fine. Eating tuna 1 to 2 times a week is perfectly fine. I think where you're going to get into trouble is if you're eating 5 to 6 ounces of fish every single day. You have no variety in other plant-based sources of protein or other types of lean meats. So I think, again, that's a wonderful question that can be thought out in a lot of detail, just with an individualized dietitian session, or kind of going to some of these mercury websites that kind of talk you through some of the specific recommendations. But yes, that is a concern. You certainly, I don't think a lot of people get to that level, though, if I'm being honest. The only time that you might embark on some kind of an issue with that is if you're a woman and you're pregnant, and that's where you might want to start to be mindful, just even like the day-to-day, even a couple times a week, you might want to make anyway. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be as much of an issue for most people as far as that goes.
All right, good. And do you have any cookbook that you would recommend for the Mediterranean diet?
Goodness, that's a good question. I feel like cookbooks I've kind of gotten out of them, and I really need to bring cookbooks back. I do a lot of blog recipes these days, guys. And so that Med versus Meds is a great option. Skinny Taste has great options. Eating Well has a Mediterranean section. So there's lots of things that are free resources that you can go to, which is kind of my thing, even though there's a lost art to like having that cookbook in hand and really using that. So I really need to bring some of that back more. But I would say trying those few blog recipe sites just to start with.
The Med versus Med is a great all-around one for Mediterranean diet.
Yes, definitely. That's specifically focused on Mediterranean.
Okay. Well, Katie, what a great presentation today. The cooking demo was wonderful.
Thank you.
And as everyone knows, we will be sending you the recipe as well as a link to this seminar and to our wellness webinar page where we house all our past webinars as well. So please take a look at that. And Katie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. As always, I enjoy these presentations so much, and I look forward to seeing you guys in June.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.